Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video on my channel. Green anoles are one of the most commonly found reptiles in pet stores everywhere. And maybe you've been thinking about keeping one. Or maybe anoles are common in the wild where you live, and you're in a situation where you've rescued one or thought about catching one. Well, in today's video, we're going to revisit my three anoles, Snap, Crackle, and Pop, and I'm going to show you what it's like to own a green anole. I've had these three anoles for about a year now, and they've been doing great. Snap and Crackle are both green anoles, and Pop is a brown anole. I believe they are two males and a female, and although the two males occasionally puff up on each other, they seem to get along fine, although there is a hierarchy between them. Pop, who is the brown anole, is obviously the dominant one of this group, and he constantly bobs his head and shows his dewlap to make it clear to the other two. But I've never seen them be rough with each other, and it seems like they always end up coming to an agreement. So this video is not a complete care guide. I've already made that video, and if you need that, I'll put a link to that in the corner right now. Today we're just going to look at what it's like on a daily basis to own and care for these amazing lizards. The vivarium for my anoles doesn't have a water dish at all, and that might seem like a strange or neglectful thing, but it's actually not at all. If I put a water dish in here, they wouldn't even use it at all, and it would just become a receptacle for crickets to drown in. The reason for this is that anoles, just like many species of geckos, don't drink their water from a standing source of water, but rather lick droplets of water from leaves and off the sides of a glass tank. So the first and the last thing I do every single day is mist down their enclosure. I spray it well enough to leave droplets of water on all the plants and the glass. And this isn't something you can skip. You have to do it every day. For feeding these guys, I put about 12 or 15 crickets in the enclosure every 2 or 3 days. I dust the crickets with supplements before feeding them. And I don't bother with tongue feeding. The lizards are excellent hunters and have no problems catching the crickets. But I don't often see them do it. At least for me, they seem to want to catch the crickets in their own time. But I know they're catching and eating them because the crickets disappear and the lizards poop everywhere. And they also make quick work of any stray gnats or fruit flies, as you can see here. You can see here that the glass gets covered with mineral deposits from all of the misting, and it gets dirty from them pooping on it. Believe it or not, as dirty as this is right now, I had just cleaned it 4 or 5 days ago. To get rid of the mineral deposits, I wipe it down with lemon juice and then scrape it with a razor blade. And after that, I give it a quick rinse and we're all clean again. So if you're going to have anoles, that's just something you can expect. Anoles, just like other reptiles, periodically shed their skin. And like some other reptile and amphibian species, they eat their shed skin as an additional source of nutrition. Here you can see Snap working on getting a piece of shed skin off of his head. He uses his feet to scrape it off, and he rubs his head on the plants and the sticks. And it took a little work on his part, but he eventually gets it off and into his mouth. Anoles are diurnal lizards, which means they are active during the day and sleep at night. Because of that, it's important to provide them with a UVB light, and since they need a lot of plant foliage, which they'll literally spend all of their time climbing on, you'll also need a full spectrum light to keep the plants healthy. But they are really active during the day and really fun to watch. Although they aren't very big, they are full of personality. To me, anoles, more than any other reptile I've owned, have a look and behavior that seems like what I would expect from a very tiny dinosaur. They are very aware and alert to every little sound and movement around them. When the lights go out at night, they get settled in and hold on tight to a leaf or branch and sleep like little babies, which is about the cutest thing you'll ever see. My experience has been that keeping an anole is somewhat similar to keeping a day gecko. Like the day gecko, they're very shy and skittish and not really the kind of reptile for taming and handling. And although I've seen videos of people working on taming and handling their anoles, I don't recommend handling anoles. For one thing, they're very delicate and fragile and can easily be injured. And also, they can climb walls and ceilings, and they're really fast. So if one gets loose, it's going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to catch it. However, unlike my day gecko, Carl, who will scramble right out of his enclosure, the anoles seem more inclined to retreat to the back of the enclosure or into the plants rather than out of the enclosure. Although it's something you still have to be aware of and careful about. So what is it like to keep and care for an anole? Anoles are fairly sensitive, and the parameters in their enclosure and their husbandry requirements need to be met exactly for them to survive. So you have to do your research. Also, since you're misting the enclosure a couple times a day and they do need plants, a bioactive terrarium really suits them best. So there's a little bit of a learning curve there to set up and maintain that. But that's also an opportunity to create a home for them that's not only good for them, but something that's beautiful to look at too. It's like having a little piece of nature inside your home. And when you get all of that right, it's a really satisfying feeling to see them thrive. So even though there's a little bit of work involved, I never get tired of watching them, and what they give me in return is far worth it. So that's Snap, Crackle, and Pop. I hope you enjoyed spending some time with them. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing, and maybe hit the notification bell if you'd like to be notified when new videos are available. And until then, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.